anything.
Yeah. But we are live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, I want to say, welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I'm your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Pretty good. I think I've got my my sleep schedule is completely out of whack, but I managed to take my usual nap a little early today, so I've been up for a few hours.
I've been awake longer than I wanted to be, coming off of this cold. And I'm just sitting there like, every so often looking at my phone like, I don't have to be up yet. I don't have to be up yet. And I'm just like lying in bed trying to go back to sleep until like my alarm finally goes off. It's like, okay, I have to get up and start getting ready for stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I got nothing on my schedule for this weekend, so I figured I'd show up.
Oh, yeah. Don't have like a
Why
date
not?
or anything.
No. Haven't had one of those in quite a while. Yep. So yeah.
Yeah,
Figured
okay.
I'd talk about games.
That is mostly what we're going to talk about today is games. Some not always video game. There's at least one topic on here that's not, even though it's still related to a video game. But yeah, the Tokyo Game Show was happening this week. So there's a lot of news that came out of that. One particular that technically came out of the Nintendo Direct before that, but we didn't end up talking about it on the Nintendo Direct episode. And there was a trailer for it again, like 2 days ago. So we're probably going to talk about that too, which is Saga Emerald Beyond. I'm really excited for that game. We've got a lot of interesting things to talk about. We're going to say hi to Timothy and Joshua, who are already in the chat. How you guys doing? And we'll get on with it. Unless you have any particular topics you want to start with, then we could just start rolling into things.
Not really. It sounded like you had a full slate.
I do. That's why I'm letting you have this time now if you had anything, but we'll just get into it then.
I will say I've been playing Story of Seasons. It's a Wonderful Life lately,
Yeah.
and it's very boring.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering if am I missing something? Like, surely there's got to be more to this game because I've played previous ones, Story of Seasons games, and I'm like, there was definitely more to it than this.
I think
prior games.
I think there's only
is up?
one that I liked, but because I've played multiple, and I can't remember the exact
Unless
name.
I'm-
It's something to do with Olive Town. I can't remember the title.
Yeah,
of it.
Pioneers of Olive.
Pioneers of Olive Town. That was the only one I enjoyed.
Yeah, that one was much better.
Yeah.
I'm like, unless I'm missing, like, there's literally nothing to do here, but it's just a farming simulator. Like, there's practically nothing else. There are people to talk to, and apparently you can get married or whatever, but it's like you farm, you tend to your cows and chickens, and that's it. Like, that's literally it. I'm like, what is up with this game? Like,
That's like
the laziest.
It's like Harvest Moon 1.
Yeah.
But you excuse the first Harvest Moon because of when it was made.
Yeah. This is the brand new one that just came out. And I'm like, you can't go to any other places. You can't. I guess there aren't really quests. There's just requests, like there's a board where you basically make some food for somebody, and it's like, and then there's plant breeding, so you can create different kinds of plants. But that's literally it, just farming and animal husbandry.
Yeah,
simulator.
it's just Harvest
That's all
Moon
there is.
basics. That's all it is. That's the whole game.
Yeah.
It's just basic Harvest Moon. Because Harvest Moon was like that
Yeah.
for, I don't know, like the first 4 games. It got more interesting, especially when they hit like the GameCube one, because it started involving the Z-axis in it. But like, it took a long time. But also, that was still back between the 90s to the aughts. Like, you've had so much time of looking at other games. Why would you go back to basics for Harvest Moon for the most recent Story of Seasons?
I mean, there's not even any like building out of your farm. You can upgrade your barn, you can upgrade your house and stuff like that. But I don't think you can even get like furniture to put in your house. Like most of these games, there's some sort of ability to decorate your house.
Yeah.
There's not even that. Like what is this game? I'm glad I got it on sale. I was like, but
like that. Also,
I
very
cannot recommend it.
Specifically sounds like it's just mimicking the Game Boy version of Harvest Moon more than anything. Yeah.
I don't understand it. For like the first, I mean, I'll play. I only played through spring and about halfway through summer, but I've looked up like what more there is to do, and it's like, well, as the years go by, you get better tools. That's it.
Just to do
like
more
there's
the
nothing.
same,
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Does it
like,
at least
what were they
have
thinking?
other music playing, and it's not just the same song on loop forever?
It's the same song on loop forever.
Even when you go to town.
It's in my. Yeah, because there's not a separate. There isn't. There's not like a separate loading screen. It's all one screen, so you wander around.
This literally sounds like that this game
fairly small
is a remake.
area.
Like, because Story of the Seasons is the Harvest Moon franchise. They're the same game franchise. You know how every so often they do like a soft reboot or like a soft remake of a game where it's a new game, but this just sounds like it's the Game Boy Harvest Moon, but done like again with newer stuff. That's all it sounds like what you're describing right now.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how small the area is. There's your little farm, and you walk out of the gate, and there's the town, which is like 3 buildings. There's another farm next to you. It's all one. See, the music never changes because it's all one, area. And then there's like a mine area where you can mine, and the mining mini game is horrible. You just tap a button over and over. And then there's
Timothy
like a
has
forest
question.
area.
He says, are there certain keywords that don't show up in your little box? I don't know. I honestly don't know if you type something. Maybe it just didn't relay over. Because all I see is the restream chat.
Yeah, I'm looking at the YouTube live stream, and it seems to match exactly. But if you type something and it's not showing up, then YouTube must have.
YouTube must have censored you before it even
Censored.
hit us. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm literally seeing it's identical on my end. But
And you're
anyway,
not on top
that's
chat,
all
you're
I
on
have to
live
say.
chat, right?
I am.
Yeah, okay.
Timothy, I don't know.
Yeah, blame Google.
Anyway, that's the only thing I had to say today was I do not recommend Story of Seasons. It's a Wonderful Life. Because it's not wonderful.
Not so wonderful life.
Yeah. I'm literally like,
Yeah.
you kind of, after you play a game like that for a while, maybe you go look up a wiki or something like that to see how you catch better fish or do, how do you do this certain thing or upgrade that. I'm going to wiki saying like, what more is there to do in this game? Like that's what I'm trying to look
What
up.
if like they're
I
actually
can't
trying to
find it.
make you really, really bored? And like they're really playing into the name of the game. So after like year 3, you're like, this game sucks, and your character like wishes they had never played the game. But then an angel comes and gives you that wish, and you realize that the world is actually hell if you never showed up, and it actually becomes interesting.
Yeah. And there's these little like elves that live in a tree that you can go visit. And I was thinking,
like the key.
well, surely they're gonna, kind of.
Yeah.
I was thinking surely they'll give you some sort of quest, or there'll be some sort of, I don't know, fighting something or doing something more interesting. All they do is give you a new recipe. That's literally their entire purpose.
You should fight the elves.
I wish you could. You don't have any weapons.
I mean,
There isn't any fighting.
You've got like
I have a
gardening
hoe.
material. Like that's a weapon.
Yeah. I could
Farmers
slap
went to
them with
war
my-
with shovels and pitchforks.
Yeah. I don't even have a shovel.
How do you not have a shovel?
There's no shovel.
Do you have a scythe for reaping?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean,
I
that's
could use
better
that.
than having a shovel anyway. That's basically a war weapon right there.
Joshua says chop down their trees. There's no axe in the game.
Yeah.
It's like bare bones as hell. It's
Yeah, like the Harvest Moon on the Game Boy. That's it. They just remade that game. That's all they did.
I mean, the inventory management is nice. It's easy to, can hold a lot of things. It's easy to flip back and forth, but
Yeah.
that's my review. Sucks.
Okay.
Boring as hell. Don't do it.
On to Tokyo Game Show stuff then.
Yes.
Yeah. So one of the crazy things that came out of it, I guess we could start with that. Let me see. Here we go. So, Final Fantasy XIV, the big MMO that everybody likes, that honestly only became the #1 MMO because WoW shit the bed. But hey, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's so popular, it's getting its own tabletop RPG based off of it. They've already got the box up. You can order it online. It is a playset that comes with like the map board that you can use, some figures, some pre-made characters and stuff like that. And it is based off of the main story of Final Fantasy XIV, with 3 ready-to-run pre-made scenarios that tie directly into it.
Indeed. Starter set is $60.
Yep.
That's
But
not so
it
bad.
comes with the player's book that that shows everything for the player's manual, a separate game master's book for the scenarios and stuff, like many starter sets do. But a lot of starter sets actually don't even give you a player's manual. They'll give you like pamphlets for the players with whatever the dungeoneering pamphlet or book is. So that's already pretty good that they're giving you 2 books in there. Pre-made character sheets for a warrior, a white mage, a dragoon, and a black mage. So you have a party of 4 that's ready to run straight out there. An encounter map, character tokens, ability markers, and 16 dice, which is 6d20 and 10d6, which are mostly what you'll need for this game.
Yeah.
So for $60, that's actually a really good value. I'm pretty sure at this point, if they're including full books in there, Wizards would charge you like $120 or more for that playset because they're getting ridiculous. They charge almost $100 for a new book on its own.
Are they up to 100? Like last I checked, which was years
It's
ago,
like
it was like
80,
60.
I think, or something. But
Oh, wow.
if you're 80, you're almost 100. Like they're nearly charging $100 for books, especially if you have to order it online. You're paying for shipping as well, unless it's through Amazon, which will probably give you a deal where it's like, yeah, you paid over $35. If you wait longer, we'll ship it for free. But like, God, like, you're probably going to pay close to $100 for a D&D book.
So is this all they have? Like I'm looking on their store.
Well, it's brand new. So
and I see this. So they don't have the full books yet.
Yeah, this is how you get it right here. And apparently, from what I'm seeing, these are bound like books. They're just smaller editions. So they're bigger than like what you're used to being like the little player's pamphlet that comes in for each of your players. They're going to be roughly the size of like the actual encounter book for the Dungeon Master that comes in any of the pre-made encounters.
Neat.
Yeah.
Starter set.
I think that's cool. I find it very limiting that it is Final Fantasy XIV. I get why it is just Final Fantasy XIV, though. Hey, if it's popular, right? Maybe they'll make more encounters, but also they'll just use the same rule set and apply it to like other things. Maybe they'll give us like a Final Fantasy 12 Evilly scenario, or maybe like a Final Fantasy 6 scenario or something at some point in time.
Yeah. Well, if it's popular enough.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know if I ever plan on playing it. I might buy a copy just to support it.
Yeah. The more I think about our, role-playing game that we did, the more I kind of start to think about, like, I think it was too
Video gamey?
video game. Yeah. There wasn't enough role-playing. There was too much fighting.
Well, part of
It
that
was
was
just-
your guys' problems. I gave you plenty of opportunity
Yeah.
to roleplay, and you guys decided that
I
you
know.
wanted to grind out levels the hard way by fighting monsters in the overworld.
Yeah. And I think it was, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I get it.
You guys
But,
technically didn't even have to fight monsters in the overworld ever. That was totally an
Oh.
option. But because you didn't want to roleplay and you didn't bother to ask around town, you just like never hitched a ride with a guy who had a car that was going across the country or anything like that. Like there were plenty of opportunities for you guys to just go across the map without faster and without running into things. But you guys just never roleplayed. You never like when you guys did ask around town, you asked like the most bare bone questions like, "What's today?"
Yeah.
There's plenty of times like you didn't have to pay to stay at the inn because like even historically, most of the times what travelers would do is they would ask around and they'd find somebody who would put them up for the night, right? Because it was a hospitality. Like people would just do that all the time. And there were plenty of opportunities. Like you guys could have just asked around. You could have like jumped around different places, stayed at local people's houses, but like, yeah, no, this is Final Fantasy. We're just gonna go stay at the inn and spend money for it.
Yeah. I think we just were in the wrong mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
We're in, so I don't know. I'm definitely I don't know, a newbie when it comes to tabletop role playing games. So
Yeah, I do think what doesn't help though
I'll have
is
to
because I
practice more.
made full maps for everything, and I have decided when we do eventually go back to it, that we're not doing map combat at all, right? And I think just doing scenes where everything else is done theater of the mind will probably help get you guys into the role playing spirit more than actually having the map
Yeah.
combat. Map combat can be fine, but I think that's better for people who are returning, who have done other role playing before, because it's very easy to just get into a gaming mode with map combat.
yeah. Like I played D&D with where what's his name? Chester was the DM.
Oh yeah, Dillard's campaign where he was like making everything and Chester was running the campaign itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I found that we didn't do the map combat at all,
Yeah.
but which kind of forced him to be a bit more descriptive,
Yeah.
or forced us to ask him more questions or something like that.
Yeah.
So it ended up being more immersive that way, I think. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because we had to, I'm sure that everybody had the scene in their mind differently from everyone else.
Oh yeah,
So
probably.
that I completely had to imagine where we were in the room. I mean, he had kind of like the layouts of the rooms. He had a map of the whole place, so we could see like what room we're in and like where this and that was. But I kind of had to imagine exactly where I was and exactly where everyone else was. What happened? You cast a spell, and I could imagine the fireball going from here to there. And
Yeah, well, it was like that one, I think, like 3-ish hour session we did where we just improvised the whole thing. That you were part of. Dillard, comic artist JW was there, Rick was there, and there was like literally no visuals. It's just everything was description. You guys had to like basically piece out what was happening.
Yeah, and I think the next time I do any role playing game, I am going to force myself to come up with a background and personality traits and
Yeah,
more
that was
specific
rough because like it was almost up to me to give your character a background to some degree.
Yeah. I guess I didn't think that would be necessary, but just and here's the thing. The funny thing is I rewatched the D&D movie
Yeah.
over this week or weekend, whatever. It's on Paramount Plus. And I was thinking about the whole time I was thinking about the game that we played and other D&D games and stuff like that I played. And I'm thinking, gosh, you could make your role-playing game way more immersive if you have this rich background for just for your own character. And so
because it doesn't even have to be much, honestly, just something,
Yeah.
because it informs
Just like-
so much of what your character wants to do.
Yeah, because like in the movie, which I thought was actually pretty good. I think it's probably the best D&D movie they've made, which isn't saying much. But like, the main character is a bard, but like he was with this group and then he did something that got his wife killed, but he blames the group he was with, but at the same time he blames the people that actually killed his wife. And
Yeah.
so when he runs into a paladin, a good guy, objectively good guy, he knows like he's with the group. He's technically with the group that killed his wife. So his, initial response is just absolute hatred, but then they kind of,
Yeah.
come to an understanding, that sort of stuff. It's
Yeah, and that's why like
come naturally once you have
Borovo.
that background in place.
Borovo was probably the strongest character in our whole group. And he's probably the most fleshed out character before we even started. Like, everybody had the option to do that. Flit though, when we had everybody had a call, right? Like I got into a private call with you guys. I think you and Dillard made your characters at the same time, maybe, which might have also been part of the problem. But like I got into a private call with Flit while he was making his character, and he was asking me details about the world, like if I wanted to play my character like this, where would he come from, and like we talked everything out, and he like made a very fleshed out backstory for his character. So Borovo was already like a fully formed character by the time we started. Now he did have a little advantage of he got to see, I think the first or second, I forget which one he came in, but he got to see at least one encounter, one episode or session before coming in with the rest of you guys. But still, like all the things he asked, I could have answered for you guys before we even started. There was like no real difference.
Or like after the first session, we could have gotten on the call and been like, okay, so we got kind of a taste.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and flesh that out now that we kind of understand a bit more about what's going on. So
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I enjoyed it thoroughly, but if and when we do it again, we can do it better.
Yeah. And also, not having map combat will save me a lot of production time.
Yeah.
Because those maps did take, even using pre-made assets, those maps took quite a while to make. Because like I'm basically like I'm having to grid it out and figure out what I'm going to do before I even put the assets down. You have no idea how long that manor took me to make.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it would still help to have a map of the area, but didn't have to be nearly as detailed. And obviously,
oh no, you guys will only get maps of the world and maybe some images of the area. Because here's the thing, like you guys, it'd be reasonable. You could buy a map of the world, right? So that you could have like the general layout of the land. But if we're gonna go more immersive, there's no reason that you guys should know what the layout of a town that you've never been to is, right? So it's like you could draw your own maps. I recommend, hey, anytime I'm a player, probably because I come from that like I always DM side, I bring paper, like scrap paper or like a notebook or something with me, because I need to keep track of shit myself, as if like the character's learning this information now.
But I did like the one, like the time we did it with Chester, he had a map of the whole place, but basically it was just covered up.
Yeah,
and he would reveal areas as we, went through them.
Yeah, we did Fog of War a lot with the maps.
Yeah. But, whatever you want to do.
Especially like a cave, right? A cave is great because you could get lost in a cave.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to keep track. This is why I like that really, really old school way of doing it. And you might need like a scrap paper, because you enter a cave and then you take a left, and then you take a right, then you take a left, and you take a left, and you take a right, and now you need to get back into the cave. What turns did you take again? Because now you need to reverse all of that, right? And
keep
if you're drawing like a little diagram, it doesn't have to be to scale, right? Like just like, okay, these are the turns we took. Then you're like, I could turn around. Okay, we're going to take a right. Then we're going to take a right. Then we're going to take a left. Then we're going to take a right. Then we're going to take, oh, look, we're almost out.
Well, getting back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Did you know that there's a Final Fantasy VII board game?
Yes.
Actually, Final Fantasy VII remake board game. called Materia Hunter.
Yes, which had made I knew about it, and the fact that it was a remake board game made me a lot less interested in it than I would have been otherwise. It's still probably fun, right? Because I mean, it's a remake board game because they're trying to sell off of the fact that the remake is new. They probably could have made this almost exact game with the old Final Fantasy VII without anything changed anyway.
Oh, there's a little coin with a Moogle on it with a bandana. Oh, so cute. I don't know if that's a token or something, but yeah, the North America Square Enix store has some fascinating stuff in here.
Well, we've got some other things to talk about with Square Enix.
All right, let's do it. But yeah, the starter set looks cool. I don't know if if I buy it, it won't be. Well, it's not even it's pre-order. When is it available?
I don't know.
What did it say? Oh, release date isn't until May of next year.
Well, there's plenty of time to pre-order it. Yeah, it was literally just announced, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll order it next year sometime.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, what's going on?
Well, Timothy is trying to figure out how to get past the YouTube censors.
Oh, is he trying to say Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I guess.
I'm guessing. Yeah. I mean, maybe if you put those words all together, I don't know.
Which is ridiculous because it's a movie title, so it's like I don't know why they're censoring that.
Yeah. I've had weird things where I don't know. YouTube is I don't understand their algorithm.
Yeah, so I actually don't have an article up for this one. I just remember seeing the trailer. The Saga Emerald Beyond, which I'm really excited for. For people who don't know what Saga is, it is just one of Square's long-running series that you could argue is technically sort of a spin-off of Final Fantasy because they did market the original version of it as a Final Fantasy game in most of the world. It was called The Final Fantasy Legend, and the sequels were The Final Fantasy Legend 2 and The Final Fantasy Legend 3. You could get all three of those on Steam or Switch as the collection of Saga now, which is the Final Fantasy Legend collection. I highly recommend playing them. I've never played 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah. I had them, and I never got all the way through them, but I had all 3 of them on Game Boy, the original Game Boy.
In fact, I haven't played 1 since, 2008. I think I emulated it was the last time I played it. So, playing that game again would be a pretty fresh experience. I might just stream the collection of Saga sometime. All right.
Do you have it?
Yeah. I've got it on Switch. Oh. Yeah, I've got I have
cool.
that and the collection of Mana. I picked them up at the same time.
Neat. By the way, hi, Rick Piper.
Hey, Rick. Yeah.
Welcome.
Are you all tonight? We're doing fine.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I noticed there were a lot of these Square Enix, and I don't remember if it was Saga. It's one of these series is on sale this week.
I don't know.
On the
Could
Switch.
be Saga.
But anyway, go ahead.
So that was the original version of Saga. Then it ran as Romancing the Saga for a really long time. From I think maybe the first one was on Super Nintendo and it just never came over here. But it ran from that through the GameCube era, and maybe even the Wii. Romancing the Saga lasted for quite a while. There's maybe 5 or 6 games in it. Very, very popular. They've had other Saga games too. In fact, actually, one of their highest grossing games right now is Romancing Saga Re-Universe, which is a gacha game. I think actually it's probably outdoing Brave Exvius and War of the Visions Brave Exvius, which are 2 of their other highest selling ones. So it's in the we're making more than $1 million per month category, right?
Yeah. I think it is. I think the entire Saga, at least whatever's available on Switch,
is on sale.
Is on sale right now,
That's
probably
cool.
for another day or 2.
So aside from Re-Universe, I've never played a Romancing Saga game, and it's one of those franchises that I've always really wanted to get into because it's turn-based. I remember the original one being really fun. I've always seen really good things about it. it's like about as popular as Dragon Quest is in Japan. It just never really gained like super big popularity outside of Japan. And the new game that they just dropped for is called Saga Emerald Beyond. And it's not part of like a trilogy in the series or anything. It is a new standalone title in the franchise that you will be able to jump in and play without knowing anything about Saga. Like you could just start it from scratch. It looks great. Graphically, I would say it looks better than a Persona game. I would say like graphically it looks more like a Shin Megami Tensei game. I would put those in the same area. It's actually kind of how I want a Final Fantasy game to look for the most part. It's got like this HD but still very anime style graphics to it. Your characters walk around in the overworld. It's kind of cool. All of the cities and props and locations in the overworld are almost like cardboard cutouts. Like they're flat while you're walking around. You do have your random encounters. It's got your turn-based, initiative-based combat, and it's like it's everything you want from a Square RPG.
It kind of looks like Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact, kind of.
Yeah.
Or I guess more Honkai Star Rail.
And especially walking around the overworld, it almost feels like the more recent Dragon Quest games since they went HD, or Bravely Default 2 walking around in the overworld. It's got like that feel to it. And that's great, you know.
And it's turn-based? Right?
Yeah. Because for some reason, Final Fantasy has to be their big premium game where they have to change it all the time. Also, we're getting lag. Damn you. But
I'll be right back with the camera, but I'm still on audio.
Yeah. But yeah, for some reason, Final Fantasy has to be their big premium game where they keep changing the genre and trying to match recent trends and stuff. But all of their side games or their other franchises are allowed to stay exactly the way they are. Which I think is a huge mistake. Because I look at this new Saga Emerald Beyond, and I'm like, this is what I want from a Final Fantasy game. And I've been wanting to get into Saga, so now you're selling me to get into Saga. Good job there. But you're keeping me from wanting to buy new Final Fantasy games because I can get what I want from other parts of your company.
Yeah, I don't understand why Final Fantasy didn't go in this direction. I don't get it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's soon going to be something else that we talk about after we're done with the Saga subject. Because we've got some reports from the Square's new president and some other stuff financially. But this game, I actually expect to do as well, if not better, than Final Fantasy 16. Why? Well, it's going to have its normal sales in Japan, because Saga always has its normal sales in Japan. But they're actually marketing this to people outside of Japan pretty well for the first time. The game looks great, and it's available on like every system.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, well, everything but Xbox, but who owns it? Nobody owns an Xbox series.
But it's on Switch. It's going to be on Android, iOS.
Yeah,
it's going to be on PC.
PS5.
PS4, more important than PS5 because people own a PS4.
Yeah. And way more people own a Switch.
Yeah. So like, this game will do wonderful. It'll actually probably fit what you expect from a Saga game to sell, if not more, right? I don't think it'll do what you expect a Final Fantasy game to do, but honestly, 16 didn't do what you expect a Final Fantasy game to do, and part of that is being only on PlayStation 5, right? Previous Final Fantasy games, like if this was done as well as previous titles, there's no reason Final Fantasy 16 should not have sold 10 million copies in its launch cycle. But there are many things that were holding it back from selling 10 million copies.
Yeah, it's I just hope Sony paid them a lot to make it a PS5 exclusive.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I feel like they probably could have made it PS4 as well, just downscaled in some way. But
no, as far as I know, the way the production worked is they basically got paid up front for this thing.
For Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, it was kind of like how 7 was made in the first place.
Yeah. Well, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So Saga, Emerald, Beyond. Yeah, I just haven't had time to get into the Saga stuff that I own
Same.
already. But
And I think like it might be time to finally make time for it. This late into the
yeah,
game.
looks like it. Mm-hmm.
But like that's exciting,
Does
you
it
know.
have-
Again, it's a standalone, so like you could jump into this without ever playing a single Saga game before.
Sure. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah, what were you gonna ask?
I was going to say it doesn't look like they have anything more than 2024. So
No.
Sometime
it's
between-
still very early.
yeah, sometime between January and December.
Hey, that's still better than most Square announcements that we were used to for like the last decade and a half, where it's like, hey, we're announcing this thing that might come out in 4 years.
Yeah. Dragon Quest 12. Come on.
But you had a full trailer that one time. It's like, yeah, it looked like we had enough of the game done for a full trailer, but actually, no, not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
Neat.
But now we're going to move on to the disappointing side of Square. That actually, it's hopeful. This is kind of like a gray pill. This is a black and white pill when it comes to Square. We have to swallow a little of a black pill before we could take the white pill to cleanse it out. And so we've been hearing a lot of mixed messages about how they feel about how 16 performed. Right, we were getting some people in the company saying it underperformed, some people pushing back against it. We even had the director seeming to, or not the director, the new president seeming to push back against it after he was the first one to give inclinations that it underperformed. Even in this most recent interview, he said it hit expectations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Not a ringing endorsement, but I mean, I guess it's better than
Yeah.
below it.
Well, you have to understand whose expectations is that. Is it,
Yeah.
are they glad they got paid up front because they knew it wasn't going to do that well on the PlayStation, being only on 5? That might be part of it. But all he said is it hit expectations. So,
Yeah.
coming from, I think, the director of the game previously in July tried to say that the sales were extremely strong. So we're getting a lot of mixed feelings from Square itself.
Yeah.
Recently, a report came out with Square. And this new report says that they lost almost $2 billion in market value since the launch of Final Fantasy 16 in June.
Okay. That's just their stock price.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Oh, man, I'm having a really bad coughing fit at the moment.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's, I guess that's bad, bad for investors.
Yeah, but I think it's also reflective of a lot that's been going at Square recently, right? Especially when you look at their normal market value for day trading is they normally it's normally sitting in just that single billion section. So losing $2 billion of market value is quite a lot for them. So the new, and this is actually a GameSpot article, is the one that shows the $2 billion. I think everybody's getting this from a Bloomberg report. I think I tried looking up for the Bloomberg one, but it was behind a paywall or whatever, because not everything Bloomberg does is free to read. So I couldn't get the exact details. But their Tokyo-based game consultant at Bloomberg was talking to the company, and it says they have problems with their games output. Like actually getting games out frequently enough was a big problem, and a lot of them are aiming for blockbuster status, and instead they're just kind of okay or very forgettable, which I think is, especially for Final Fantasy, that's been true. I think the only thing anybody's going to remember about Final Fantasy 15 in another 5 years, once it hits it's been out for a whole decade, is going to be that it had a car that also maybe could fly, but people won't even realize that was an addition to the game that wasn't even in the base game. They might remember the boy band. That might be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember all the different versions of it.
Yeah.
Like, why is there a chibi version? Why is there a town builder game
Oh,
that
so the
calls
Pocket
itself-
Edition and
Yeah.
the Kingsglaive Kingdom Builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
think 16
confusing.
is going to be even more forgettable. I
Hmm.
mean, most people can't even tell you what goes on in the story of 16.
something icons and I don't know.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Forspoken was lackluster in every single way. And it was actually kind of a pathetic game, and they were trying to build that up as a big blockbuster release. Square's been flopping. Even, I can't remember who it was, but in more or less words, weird translation from Japanese, is they met expectations, but from Square's perspective, 16's a flop, right? Because they expect Final Fantasy games to just do much better. And part of that, again, it could be the limitations to being on a single system. Maybe we'll see some growth once it hits PC in possibly mid-January was the time that they were giving. But who knows if it'll actually grow that much. People maybe lost interest by then. That's why the launch window is so important for a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the new guy, so his name is, I can never remember his name, so I have it in front of me. Takashi Kiryu. So I'm going to have to grind it. The current CEO of Square is Kiryu. He has been talking about a lot of shifts to the company's priority for how they need to do their big budget games and away from like smaller titles, which kind of at first feels bad for me because smaller titles might include something like Octopath Traveler, especially considering that they said they want to get away from outsourcing development. And it's like, okay, well, the Octopath Traveler is made by another company, Bravely Default, also made by another company. It's outsourced. Those two specifically might be safe, though, because Nintendo is a co-publisher on that, so maybe they won't be affected. But that maybe a lot of their other smaller titles might.
Is that same company making like the Dragon Quest III remake? Or is that
I don't know.
Okay.
I believe it's mostly in-house because I know Hori is overseeing it. It could be in conjunction with them. I'm really not sure who's all involved in that. But I know that the main Dragon Quest team is at least working on it in some capacity. Because everything has to get past Hori's approval. But that was a big problem. So I have another article up about this. My brother actually sent me these things, so I was very thankful to him. From TechRaptor, which is also, some of this is coming from Bloomberg, but they're talking about different things that the GameSpot article wasn't. And this one talks more about the actual direction he wants to take the company. He's been pushing it for a little bit before the situation where they actually changed presidents back in like June or whenever that happened. He had apparently been shadowing under the former CEO for like months or whatever, so that, you know, it's a transitionary period. You're trying to get into the new flow, trying to like figure out what the new guy wants, make sure everybody else starts coming in line to it. And he wants to focus on identifying their existing IPs, and that can be upgraded to AAA status rather than relying on creating new IPs. So that could even involve this Saga game, might be part of that, right? Where Saga, up until this point, they've had some 3D models and stuff, but for the most part, Saga's always been like a sprite-based game. So they're trying to upgrade this to what they call their AAA status. So we have this full 3D modeled Saga where the battle scenes actually look immaculate. I think that's part of it. They might be doing that with some of their other things. He was actually apparently one of the people that was pushing for them to sell off their foreign investments like Crystal Dynamics and Eidos and all of that. Because he felt that the worth of franchises like Tomb Raider in sale were worth more than what they would get out of Tomb Raider at the time, and it would be better to just start focusing on maybe being a Japanese company again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw, I tweeted a while back where, just a few days ago, that they really needed to concentrate on their core IPs, you know,
Yeah.
and I said Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest specifically, but
They have plenty,
you know,
honestly.
I wouldn't drop, you know, Saga, and they do the Mana series too, right? Or is that
So-
one dead?
There's a reason why the Seiken Densetsu series has been dead for quite a while. And it was, what was the last one? I think it might have been Children of Mana on the DS. But it was around that era, the actual original director for the Mana series, who had been there from the beginning, passed away.
Mhm.
Right? And we didn't see a brand new Mana game, something that wasn't like a remake, until this mobile game that happened like a couple of years ago, which still, it's relying on the old stuff, but it is technically a new story that's interweaving them in almost like a Kingdom Hearts style jump through different eras of the timeline kind of way. And they might be making a new one. There's been rumors that there's a new one coming around, that the Trials of Mana remake was kind of like a test for bringing the series back. So the Seiken Densetsu series might actually be coming back in full. I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually one of the titles that they're trying to bring into this modern AAA status. Is because I mean, you could very much consider Trials of Mana a AAA game.
Sure.
And the director of that had worked on pretty much all the remakes, worked on that phone game. So I think they're just trying to make this guy the new director of the Mana series so that they can have somebody doing it consistently going forth. That's another thing that he wants to get to, because without stretching people thin, which has always been a problem at Square, he wants to get back to the fact that there's like one director for a department or franchise for each one. He doesn't want like different producers over games, because right now producers have more power in the game than the actual director of the game does. And part of that is because, well, as a producer, they have to control investment, like how many finances and stuff go into a game, and because they're also needing to make sure that they can promote the game, because all of the producers are the PR for the game as well. Like somebody like Yoshi P comes up and he's the one that you interview. So they have to know everything that's going on in the game. They have to approve everything that happens in the game so that like it's something that they think will sell well. And this has been leading to some really bad games, especially when you stretch your producers thin and you have somebody working on Final Fantasy 14 and 16 at the same time, right? So directors for departments, they're going back to that, how it used to be in the old days. That's a big thing. And there's another thing.
By the way, in Spaces, Chronos 202 says regarding Forspoken, lackluster is putting it mildly for Forspoken. The writing team needs to be blacklisted.
I agree. Lackluster was what they were describing for sales, not for the quality of the game. The quality of the game, I would say, was absolute dog shit.
Yeah. Agreed. Anyway, Metal's having a bit of a coughing fit again. Welcome to the club.
It's all the mucus. That's the real problem.
All right.
Yeah. But it was horrible. Horrible. Don't worry, I have plenty of water behind me. I filled up my 2-liter, a used RC 2-liter bottle with water. And actually, I'm not even going to drink that next. After I finish this cup very soon, I've got some hot tea over there on my nightstand, like a big electric kettle of it that I'm going to pour into this. It should be at just the right temperature now by the time I'm ready to drink it. Yeah. But,
sorry, interrupted. What were you going to add to that?
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, that he seems like he's trying to go backwards. to how they used to make. Because Square, you were talking about HD games, which is what they use to separate these two different categories. They would have their low end, their pixel games, which you and me, like, I don't know why you can't consider a pixel game an HD game, especially when you look at how beautiful Octopath Traveler is. But that's not what they call their HD games. They have that, and they have like Final Fantasy, which is their HD games. And he's like, Square used to be great at pumping out HD titles on whatever system it was. And they just have not been great at that. So, like, franchises they need to keep, Kingdom Hearts is a big franchise that they're still working on. 4's obviously around the corner. Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Saga, Sword of Legends, the Mana series. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but they could even bring back some of their other titles. ActRaiser had a really good remake that did okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try to bring back some of their old things. There's some games I would like to see them do HD remakes of that keeps the spirit of the game, like The Illusion of Gaia would be great. There's tons of Enix properties that have not been touched. But instead, they've just been making new IPs left and right, and he's like, we need to stop doing that. Instead of just making new IPs, we need to identify the existing ones that we have that can just be upgraded into these great games.
Yeah, I agree. It's they've got such a great, breadth of existing IPs, and I think it's good sometimes to take some risks and try some new things, but hasn't worked. So let's get back to the, their core IPs for a while.
Well, yeah, you have to look at like the last guy they had. They were trying to do like all this NFT shit, blockchain, cloud-based stuff. And they're still trying to do a little bit of the cloud, a little some of the AI development. Honestly, of everything, the AI development is the one that makes the most sense, because if you're doing some type of role-playing game, having interactive NPCs at the end of the day would actually improve the experience of the game. I don't blame them for soaking resources into AI development at all. Their little sample game where they redid one of their oldest visual novel type things, I thought was a great way to experiment. But like all that blockchain NFT shit, that was a fad. I'm glad that guy's gone from the company, and we actually have somebody who likes older Square. And this is something I was saying when we first saw him come in. He was a fan of the old Final Fantasy games, and I was hoping that this would actually let us see somewhat of a return to form for Square. And even if Final Fantasy doesn't quite return to that, because there's a board of directors he still has to answer to, maybe they're like, no, Final Fantasy, this is the way it's been going, we have to go this direction. At least we're getting high quality games in things like Saga, right? Like we can have in-house replacements to Final Fantasy if we need to.
Right. I just don't see what would be so bad about going back to the active time battle system.
I don't either, especially since like something like Saga and even some of their other stuff, if they keep Octopath around, they have like true turn-based games there. An active time battle system would be a great area to take Final Fantasy back to, and I'm not too dishopeful, because while I have absolutely no interest in any part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's already way too far gone for me to care. If you actually look, the new one is a little closer to ATB than it is to the action system of the previous one. So there's some hope that maybe with this influence, this guy is winding backwards. We might see, maybe it'll be a more dynamic action system, similar to Final Fantasy 13 in some way, but maybe closer to like 12's combat. Like, if it's somewhere in there, I'm happy camper. I don't need it to go like all the way back to Final Fantasy 6. I'm fine if it's somewhere between like 12 and 13. I want us to be in battles, but we can move around in the field actively. That's perfectly fine. I'm cool with that. But as long as we've got that little gauge, it's almost like a turn-based system. I'm happy.
The fact that they're doing the next Saga like this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that hasn't come out yet, but like Honkai Star Rail, incredibly popular.
Incredibly.
Like, do a turn-based system just like that.
Yeah, you could.
So
I'm just saying, like, if they want to keep Final Fantasy separate from their other stuff, let's just go back to the ATB. I loved the ATB.
Yeah.
I thought that was the thing that made Final Fantasy special from all the other RPGs at the time, is that Ito came around and he's like, boom, I got a new way of doing turn-based for you. And then the Super Nintendo hits and we've got this active time battle system.
Yeah. I mean, even the Final Fantasy X battle system is pretty good. Where
that's
shows
strictly
like,
turn-based. That's
that's
like Honkai actually, right? Or Octopath. It's that turn order system where you can manipulate the turn order. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the problem, because the remaster of Final Fantasy X has done better than any other game that they've put out in the last, like, I don't know, when did that come out? Like 6 years ago? But like in that last half decade, that remake has done better than any new game that Square has put out. Why? Because it was already a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I'm holding out hope. I'm actually gonna hold my breath on this for once.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against Square Enix in the long run. We'll see if they. I'm sure they'll.
I wouldn't, because at least they look like they're willing to adapt. Like if that last guy stayed around, or even the guy before him, neither of the last two people they had were doing particularly a good job, and I don't even necessarily blame them. They could have just caved to the board too easily. Like, you need a sterner guy who doesn't just immediately cave to the board. But if like the way they had been going, I actually would have bet against them in the long run. Right? It's the fact that they're willing to do this that actually gives me hope. Yeah.
Chrono says there's also the bit where Square's selling their Western IPs, especially after the number of high-level failures, including the dumb NFT push, was a PR nightmare.
Oh, yeah. I think we talked about that a bit.
Yeah. He says Embracer came out smelling like roses in the deal.
Sort of, but now Embracer is starting to regret some of its purchases, as we covered, 2 weeks or a week and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they just closed. Who is it?
Well, I know they're trying to get rid of Gearbox. And Volition they closed out before that.
Volition.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
There's actually rumors that Take-Two might, probably not. I think the president actually just squashed those rumors, but there were rumors that Take-Two might be buying Gearbox back. I didn't read the article, but from the quote that I saw, it looked like he was trying to squash those rumors. And it's like, if you sold Gearbox in the first place, why would you try to buy them back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I unplugged my headphones.
Uh-oh.
There we go. My headphone cord is so
me?
long that sometimes I step on it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, we do have a thing that's really exciting for me to talk about that will cover at least a little decent portion. And then there's actually even news on like Stardew and stuff like that. So if this doesn't take too long, I've got a lot of stuff to fill in the end. But also at the Tokyo Game Show, we got a brand new first look at Honkai Impact 3rd Part 2. Now, as you know, I'm a pretty big fan of the MiHoYo products. I find their games really, really fun. And I play all three of their major big games right now. I probably would even try some other games. I don't even know if you can play Gun Girl Z anymore. But I have less interest in that. That's one of those kind of like auto RPGs or whatever, where like you build up the team and they march off to one side and they kill things together. But it still has a lot of the same characters that you get used to seeing from the universe. But Honkai Impact 3rd was their big game that kind of like revolutionized probably like phone games in general. It was a full-on action RPG that you could play on your phone prior to like even a lot of these other games like Arena of Valor and stuff, where you like, oh man, this is actually a full game on your phone, right? Like this is one of the older games to do it. It's been actively around for 7 years now, right? Which is a really long time for a phone game. And we knew that for this big anniversary that was coming up, which I think is the Hoyoverse 10th anniversary. It was like when they established that, like, they didn't call it Hoyoverse yet, but when basically they established the Honkai-verse, like all of the connected stuff with their previous games. This is like the 10th anniversary of that. And so it's also going to be the 7th of Honkai Impact 3rd. We knew they were going to redo like the engine, that they were going to add all this cool stuff. I didn't know that they were basically making a full sequel to the game within the game that you could just skip to. And that's what Honkai Impact 3rd Part 2 is. It's going to have a brand new cast, so it's not the people are used to. Actually, for almost like spoiler story reasons, it couldn't be most of the people that you're used to because some of them are dead. But like there's like brand new cast, and the first game takes place on Earth for the most part. There's like some bubble universes or like worlds that you go to that aren't Earth, but like the main story takes place on what would be that universe's version of our Earth. And now they're going to Mars, baby. They're actually hopping on the ship, going to Mars.
Is Honkai Impact 3rd, is that available in the US?
Oh, yeah. The only thing is that there isn't an English dub, but it is fully playable in English. I personally play in the Chinese dub because I feel like that's just the most authentic to the game being made. The default dub when you download it is the Japanese dub. They're both good, though. You can choose either of them. I think between the two languages. Yeah, it's all translated. You can read in English.
There's just there's no voice acting.
Yeah, no dub.
English.
No dub.
Got it.
But all of the menus, all of the lines in the game, there's English text for it. You can read it, no problem. And it's a very fun game. If you like action RPGs, but especially like that high octane hack and slash beat 'em up style of like Devil May Cry, or like even No More Heroes, but it's closer in speed to Devil May Cry, then Honkai Impact 3rd is a very enjoyable game. It is playable on PC. I play it on PC. It's very awkward if you're a keyboard user because there are no mouse controls in the game. That's how old it is. It's only keyboard control. So it's like it's WASD to move, Q and E to rotate your camera around, which thankfully it's only... the Z-axis doesn't even get really involved until later parts of the game. So like rotation's only along, I guess...
So wait, is this available on mobile?
Yeah, it's on the phone. PC? Yeah, right.
Oh.
So it's it's only that one rotation of like I guess the X-axis, right? Or I guess it's W rotation, right? Rotating across the X and Y axis is W rotation. But the actual controls for their side is the other side of the keyboard. So you're hitting like J to attack, K to dodge, I to use your skill, U to use your ultimate. It takes a bit getting used to, but as long as you have a non-Bluetooth controller, because that's how old the game is, the one that's permanently plugged in, it does have full controller support. I'm assuming they're gonna fix that with the new engine and everything, that they will have full like Bluetooth controller support, where as long as your computer still registers it, the game's not gonna stop registering it. Maybe they'll even add mouse controls like with Genshin, because I kind of like using my mouse buttons to click and attack and stuff. But it looks beautiful. Actually, it does. If you have not seen the trailer for it, it's a brand new game. Jumping is involved from the beginning. It's because it's got the aerial combat that you get used to in Devil May Cry, which has been in Honkai Impact 3rd already. In the later stuff, especially if you've played a post-Honkai Odyssey, which the main character it's basically Dante from Devil May Cry. They made their own "We have Dante at home" model for that story. Instead of white hair, the guy's got black hair. Instead of a red trench coat and a white t-shirt with black pants, he's got a white trench coat with red trimming. But all of his combos, it's like the Stinger combos and stuff from Dante's Maid Sword, The Rebellion. You feel like you're playing Devil May Cry when you're playing a post-Honkai Odyssey. But the new cast of characters are fun. They're great looking. One of the ladies uses a yo-yo to fight. Gives me like mad Bridget vibes from
Yeah, I was gonna
Guilty
say.
Gear. I love it. She does like a cat's cradle before doing her ultimate move. There's one girl with like a really big hammer that's smashing the shit out of everything. It looks fun. It's the combat I'm used to, but progressed further so that like it's basically all the stuff they've added at the end of Honkai Impact 3rd. You get that at the beginning of this game. You don't have to work up to it. And because it's a new cast of characters, you can just skip straight to it. You don't have to have played the story to get everything. Honkai Impact 3 has always been good at letting you skip the story anyway. So if you happen to follow like a Let's Player or streamer who plays the game and you already know the story because you follow them, you can just skip to the most recent content. They'll give you trial characters that you can use for it, for the story, and go back and just play the older content later that you already know the story for. Like, it is a very beginner-friendly game. You can jump into Honkai Impact 3rd at any time.
Okay.
You never feel like you're behind. And I'm
But
just really excited.
at the moment though, it still has sort of the very old controls.
Well, yeah,
until they
if you're
release the new one,
stuck on keyboard, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. But if you have like I said, if you have a USB controller, it's fine. I don't play. I play on keyboard. I've just gotten used to the controls, but like, it's fine. Like,
Why wouldn't it work with
well.
if your computer recognizes a Bluetooth controller? Why wouldn't
It's
it work?
something about the age of like how they made the engine and stuff back then, right? Because it was made primarily for phone first, right? Which you think you would want controller support, but phones didn't have controller support back then, even for like Bluetooth, right? So the game somehow just loses track of your Bluetooth controller in the engine.
Weird.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Because I think the game
Looks like-
has to pick up the controller itself. And China had a lot of plug-in controllers that like bypass the fact that your phone didn't have controller support. I mean, we have a lot of like USB-C controllers now too. But like a lot of people had USB-C controllers. So the game was responsible for picking up the controller since the like phone itself didn't natively have controller support.
Yeah. Looks like it was put on Steam in 2021.
Was it? I didn't even know the game was available on Steam. I downloaded it directly from their site.
Yeah, apparently it is.
Yeah. But it's a fun game. Especially, some people are a little disappointed by it when they get into it, because there's some people that they just want their male characters, right? They want to be able to play as guys. And I'm sorry to say, outside of a few
it's all
side
women.
stories, like a post Honkai Impact, or a post Honkai Odyssey, where you play as that Dante-like character, everyone in the game is basically a girl. It's all girls. All
Well, sounds good to me.
yeah. All as far as I know, I think maybe not so much with Bronya. I'm really not sure. I believe they're all of age women. Bronya's just like, she looks like a child. She's a small, flat-chested girl. There's one character who is physically a child, even though she's like really old. It's one of those weird things. And there's actually like that's one of those ones. If you're talking about somebody's getting creepy about this character, they actually are getting creepy about this character because her body does not age past 12 because of like some weird thing with the cloning process. So like that actually it would be kind of creepy, even though she's like 40 years old. But like they're all women in the whole game. You even see some of the people that you've kind of got to know in Honkai Star Rail, where like Himiko is there, Bronya's there, Seela's there. This is like, I don't think there's technically an original version, quote unquote, because they're all different worlds, so it's like a multiverse. But this is like the main Earth, so these are like the quote unquote prime versions of the characters, and everybody else is like a dupe. Himiko fucking dies. That's not even a spoiler because she dies in like every fucking game she shows up in. I think she died in Girl Z as well. She died in like Honkai 2 or whatever, Honkai Battle 2 or whatever the name of the fucking game was. I hope to God she doesn't die in Star Rail because I'm like, please let there be a game where Himiko doesn't fucking die.
Not this one.
Yeah. But like the main, there's a hub area too for the game which is kind of cool. The closest thing the main game had is there's like a screen, which is like the deck for the ship, right? But then you could go to the dorms and you see like little chibi versions of the characters walking around in the dorm, but there's really no hub. There's a few open world areas, but no hub. This game actually has a hub, and there's like a mall that you go to. I guess it's a mall on Mars that's part of like the colony that gets established there or whatever. But you actually get to go around this mall. There's like shops and different things that you do. Very, very, I guess Splatoon vibes, because like Splatoon's kind of got like that Mall Street area. It kind of feels in line with what they're trying to do with Zenless Zone Zero at the same time, because Honkai doesn't even have open zones for the most part for Impact outside of like the open world areas. It's a mission-based game, so you go into the story. It's like you're running a little dungeon. Again, it's very, very Devil May Cry. You'll run through different areas. It's like playing a beat 'em up, right? You go to a level of a beat 'em up, and aside from games like Scott Pilgrim or River City Girls, where they open the whole thing into a world, you're usually like you jump in. This is the level. You navigate this level. There's by 3 or 4 sections to the level, boss. Then you go to the next one. That's the game. That's how the game functions. It's fun. There's even co-op features.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just really excited for the game. You can probably tell, like I'm
I can
excited.
tell.
For this game.
I can tell you're excited.
We're going to Mars, baby.
Cool.
They're going to Mars. And it was a really good trailer. I recommend people watch it. Like, even if you have no interest in the game, you'd probably just be astounded by the trailer.
Yeah. Well, if you're a fan of Honkai Star Rail, check it out.
Well, and more importantly, if you're a fan of like action hack and slash beat 'em up games, though it has everything else in it too. Like there's random platformers and mini games. Like this is a game they've been doing for 7 years. They have events where you end up doing like every type of game possible. I swear the last event I was doing a turn-based RPG, but it was like one of those like card battle focused ones where like all your moves are all like cards that you pick up.
When does part 2 come out?
I don't think
Is
they've
it
given a
out?
date on it yet.
Oh, okay.
I think it's sometime in this next year, and that's because that'll line up with the anniversary. I think it's actually probably coming out on the anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a Honkai Star Rail video that was dropped. It gave a fixed date for when it's dropping on PS5, which I believe is the 11th of October. So it'll be available on PlayStation then. I think we're also getting a patch around that time too. I think that might be when a character comes out. If they're doing it in the order that they drip fed it, Jing Liu would be the next character that comes out. It's after the current banner ends. But at the very end of it, while the whole thing was showing like a collage of things that have happened in the game up till now, they had a little teaser part for the character of Topaz, who is the one I'm saving up for next. She has a warp trotter, like one of those space pigs, as a pet that fights with her. It gets like its own turn in the turn order. And she is an agent for the IPC, which is kind of like the East Dutch India Trading Company of their interspatial, interworld universe. And she's there to collect the 700-year debt for Belobog, the place that you were at for Eurilo 6 in World 1, the frozen place that's kind of Final Fantasy 7. They've basically an apocalypse for 700 years. They've had no contact with outside worlds, or even that outside worlds existed, because they've regressed into a pre-space age society. So they couldn't have paid their debt. And she's coming to pick up 700 years worth of debt. So that's going to be very interesting to the storyline. I can't wait to see what happens with that.
Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like that you know that meme where the guy is like holding onto the woman's neck and like, you know, people are put a bunch of geeky stuff in as like what he's
yeah.
I feel like I'm
explaining
that woman
all
right
this.
now.
Yeah.
Like I don't know
at the baseball
I don't know,
game. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand anything you just said for the last 30 minutes, but it's all very fascinating.
Yeah. It's a fun world. It is one of those worlds so that you actually like really, really have to dive into to understand. Like, it's not one that like you can understand on the base. Part of it is that they pull from everything. Like they've got like Chinese influence, Japanese influence, German influence. Apparently they really like Germany. There's a lot of characters and places that are just have German names. But they pull their inspiration from everywhere. Fucking physics and stuff. They actually go back to like the original interpretation of the many worlds theory. The thing that's very, very complicated. Actually, I think they probably have a better understanding of physics than most science fiction writers do, right? As I'm reading it. And it's just, it's a lot to take in if you're not already immersed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, FizzChezo has an interesting question. Is there a game that made treasure hunting fun? And I would say
plenty of
Dragon
games.
Quest. Dragon Quest Treasures is really fun. I
Do you
find it fun.
not have fun usually treasure hunting in games?
I don't know.
Like, I know a lot of people found that Wind Waker part boring, but I enjoyed it the first time with the Triforces, and that's probably just because I enjoyed the overall treasure hunting aspect of that game where you could just get, like, maps and pull things up.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy XIV does treasure hunting. The treasure maps are actually probably one of the most fun things to do with friends in that game, because you guys, while you're crafting, you just end up pulling maps out of, not crafting, harvesting. You just end up pulling maps out of like the water off your fishing line, or you find them in trees and stuff like that. And then you go and you try to find the spot. They give you this very small zoomed in clip of one of the maps where it should be. And you're like, okay, I know where that is in the game. And you and your friends all fly over there and you find a treasure map and you have to fight a horde, and maybe a dungeon drops that you have to go into to get more treasure. It's a really fun experience. Treasure hunting is usually fun in games.
I think so. There's even a little bit in Tears of the Kingdom. You find these maps and
Yeah.
they give you an X that leads you to something cool.
You could play a game that's entirely based on treasure hunting. I love the Tomb Raider franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, or there's Uncharted for people who like lesser games.
Oblivion made treasure hunting boring.
Oh, due to level scaling?
Okay.
Yeah, because when you level up in Oblivion, everything levels up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't hate treasure hunting in Oblivion. Okay.
Well, I do. I need to get back to it, but I have enjoyed Dragon Quest Treasures. I thought that was a fun game, especially if you like the franchise.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
you had a new story.
that's a big thing with Dragon Quest, right? They've got so many spin-off games that are fun. If you already like Dragon Quest, you'll probably like the spin-off game.
Although I'm not crazy about. I've played a couple of different Dragon Quest Monsters games. Well,
because it's
I'm
not
less-
the Dragon Quest RPG style that you're used to. It's
Right.
It's that SMT style of gameplay.
You mean with the battling in real time and all that stuff?
Well,
What
I mean,
is SMT? I don't know. What that
Shin
means.
Megami Tensei.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Where it's like
Yeah.
you're capturing a team to fight for you. So it's not quite the same as Pokemon. It's like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
3v3 thing. It's that SMT style.
hmm
It's the same one that what was that game? Hokai Watch or whatever. Yokai Watch. That's it. Yokai Watch did. Where you have to catch your yokais and put them, and it's a 3v3 battle as well. Yokai Watch at least did an interesting way because you still have a full party of 6, like Pokemon, but you just have 3 of them out at a time, and you rotate the watch to rotate your party. Like that actually is a pretty cool mechanic that sets it aside from Shin Megami Tensei a little bit. But it's just like kid-friendly SMT. That's all Yokai Watch is. And I mean, I guess Dragon Quest Monsters is the same. It's just kid-friendly SMT. We're not
Yeah.
dealing with demons and stuff for a T-rated game. You've got these friendly little creatures that exist in the Dragon Quest world.
Right.
We do have some filler stuff. A lesser appreciated, but one of my favorite Kirby games in the franchise, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, is hitting the Nintendo Switch Online, exclusive to the expansion pass because it's part of the GBA system.
Right.
And that's a fun one. It's a multiplayer game, and as far as I know from what they've said, it will still be completely multiplayer as long as you and your friends all have access to the expansion pass. You can play it through the network.
Oh, it's going to be internet enabled or whatever? You can play
Yeah, I
with your
mean,
Switch
most of the
friends,
games
apparently?
are. If it's a
Mhm.
game where the game originally existed on separate systems, most of those
Yeah.
games are internet accessible. There's some older ones that are too, because I believe for Mario 3 and stuff, they literally just used the virtual console versions of them, which were already download play available. So I think those are available through the internet. But like all of the GBA games and GB games where you had to connect to somebody else who had the cartridge on their thing, they work on the internet. In fact, I think they only work on the internet because they have to work that way. I don't think you can couch co-op them because they were never designed to work with split screen and anything like that.
Right.
But that'll be a fun one.
Cool.
I can't wait to play that one again. I saw this indie game trailer that actually looked pretty interesting, especially because I do love me some horror games. And there's this game called Harvest Island. It's a farming simulation game. It feels very Stardew Valley, but it's if Stardew Valley was a horror game, which it
Yeah, I
seems
saw
kind of
that.
fun. Yeah. So there's mysteries of the island that are unraveling. The island's watched over by like these gods that ask for like offerings and stuff in exchange for blessings. But it's a very dangerous island with like different biomes and stuff. You might be killed by a moose if it gets angry while you're out there. It's a mix between like a farming simulation and like a survival game, but there's also kind of like this dark mystery going on at the same time that kind of takes it a little past the survival action to a borderline horror game, especially with like the dark secrets of these mysterious gods of the island. So I might be interested in that.
Yeah. Stardew's the one of
Yeah.
the ones that got the farming sim right.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
actually
think it's
got
the
a
first one that
whole
got it
bunch of
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
but it took a long time for like the staples of the farming sims to get it right. And being like, well, I'm just going to take everything I already like from the farming sims and put them together. He did definitely get it more right than anybody else has before. And I don't even think anybody else has been able to recreate it since then properly.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. There's been some that have come close, like that Pioneers of Olive Town. I thought was pretty good, but
Oh, I even think Rune Factory, like 3 specifically, got pretty close. Yeah.
yeah, and I haven't played it, but I've heard Rune Factory 4 is pretty damn good too.
I haven't played it, but yeah, it probably is.
know. And I have Rune Factory 5. I need to get back to that too. I haven't gotten into that very much, but from what I recall, it's way better than this other game.
But we could also kind of blame Rune Factory for Stardew existing, because while there's definitely some good stuff about it, the fact that Harvest Moon wasn't doing Harvest Moon is why Eric made Stardew in the first place. It's like, oh, all I'm getting is Rune Factory. And Rune Factory's fun, but it's not exactly what I want from the game.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm trying to not to change the subject or anything, but Unity did update their little
Oh, yeah.
fee schedule.
And I saw that some
Is that on your list?
devs were... No, I don't have it on the list, but I saw that some devs were cool with it, and some of them are still very scared and not trusting of Unity.
Well, it's interesting that I guess they basically made it so that if you're using Unity Personal, there's no fees, just like before. But I guess before there was a limit to how much you could actually make from a game made with the personal version. And so they're still basically trying to move people into the pro version. If basically you can only make $200,000, but apparently you could only make $100,000 before. So I don't quite understand. Like, so people that were on the personal plan or using Unity Personal could not have qualified for the fees before anyway. Am I right about that?
Well, so when they added the fees, they increased the threshold to 200,000. So it would still apply to personal as long as they don't go over that pricing.
Yeah.
It could still happen for installs, right? So that was the big issue.
It seems to be implying that before they, like the current version,
Yeah.
you were not allowed to make more than $100,000.
Oh, hey,
with the
it's a weird way of phrasing, because I remember when they first dropped it, we talked about it too. It's more of looking at the other way around. The personal is kind of like a free use license, to where you are not obligated to buy a license until you pass that threshold. That's basically what the personal is, right? So after you cross that threshold, then you're no longer in like this free use section. You have to buy a license to continue.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Basically, you have to go to pro, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's basically, it's almost like a free demo version of Unity up to that point.
So it seems like essentially what they're doing is, instead of saying, okay, you don't have to go to pro, but you're going to pay these exorbitant 20 cents per download fees if you don't.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
They kind of just went back to the old model of, no, you just have to go to pro. No, we're not going to do the fees for the personal, and they are upping the limit from 100,000 to 200,000, which is great. But they're basically just saying, okay, no more. Let's not confuse the issue.
Yeah.
Personal is for smaller, and see, so that kind of.
And even
I
then,
didn't
like,
realize there was
most
that limit
people in the
before.
personal, like 90% of people in personal, would never have gotten hit by fees anyway.
Oh, probably 99%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really makes me think a lot of this is way overblown. Because I was under the impression that you could have personal and have $1 million in sales already.
No.
But that was never an option.
I thought that was clear when we were talking. I guess there was some confusion around that. Yeah.
Because I was thinking, okay, what if you're already way above the 200,000, but you couldn't have been. Nobody, because the limit was actually 100,000.
I think maybe the reason I wasn't
confused.
confused is that I still had the memory of when we talked about their personal and pro pricing like over a year ago. So like I had that in my head as context for when we were talking about this.
Right. So that, I think, so now I'm kind of wondering, like,
well, it's like I said, it's only the
It just
mid-level
feels like
developers
people are-
that were going to get hurt by this anyway. It was only ever the mid-level developers. It was even
But they
then, it was
still-
people in that middle pro section on the lower end that were getting hurt, right? It's because once you get to that whole enterprise side, the higher one, you're making so much money anyway, and then the diminished returns on installs weren't even going to hurt you.
Right. So so the threshold is now, you have to have made $1 million in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Right. That's the threshold, which makes me a little bit less, concerned. And then
they
basically
because if you
give
don't hit that,
they give you an
you're still
option.
in pro, but you're like in pro without any additional fees, right? You're just your normal license fee.
Right, which is like $2,000 a seat for your developers.
That's why I said
think.
like this was still a concerning thing, but I didn't think it was anywhere near as bad as people were making it.
Yeah.
And I think now you're starting to get into my head, because this is where I was last time, because I think I had a better grasp over what was happening.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, wait a minute, a personal user. What if a personal user makes $1 million? Which is like, okay, that was never an option. I mean, they made it an option here, but it would have been a dumb thing to do to stay on personal if you're making that much money. Yeah. So they basically just said, yeah, that is dumb. Let's just go back to not even allowing that at
Yeah.
all. Instead of like strongly encouraging people to go to pro, they're basically forcing you to go to pro, which they always were.
Yeah, they always
You
did.
got, you know,
They always did. There was never any different.
that really does.
It was another
Yeah, that
reason why
completely
I often told
changes
people
my-
they should have just been with Unreal in the first place, right? Because Unreal,
Yeah.
it's basically just free until you hit $1 million, and then you just owe 5%, and it's a flat rate that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah. So this is actually better because, well, no, it's not free. It's free until you hit 200,000, but then they're giving you the option of doing 2.5% of revenue
Yeah.
instead of per download or per whatever it is. Yeah, per install or whatever.
Yeah. It's not that bad. And, like, there's still reason to use
Yeah.
Unity, even though it's a very bloated system. There's a lot of services that you can use with them. A lot of them aren't even that expensive. Between all the services that you use, especially because they give you discounts based on the services too, you're still probably going to be keeping more of your money when you're in the lower end than when you go to Epic, right? By lower end, I mean you've crossed that $1 million threshold. It's not until you're going to be in the upper threshold of things where you're actually saving money through Epic system than
Right.
Unity. And it's like, that's fine. No, you know, like a lot of low end developers are just going to stick with Unity. And this is going to be better for them. It's just they can't trust Unity now. That's the bigger problem. Though I think this actually should be
guess-
somewhat a sign of trust. I'm not them, though. I can't tell them to trust Unity.
Yeah. Right. And the other thing, the other big deal is that basically, so this is not going to apply. This is only going to apply to games that were built or upgraded to the new 2024 version of Unity.
Yes.
So if your game already exists, you don't have to worry about any of this shit.
Yeah, it's because of Unity runtime. And actually,
Yeah.
I want to answer
It goes by
Joseph's
the
question.
old model.
Because he asks, how would Unity know if you were installing a game without the internet? Would if you buy a Unity game through GOG? Well, the problem is, especially with the way things are now, you can't install a modern Unity game without the internet because these games don't actually have the information for Unity runtime in it. What happens is it has a ping in there, like a little trigger when you install it. It's kind of like how things work with a lot of like Microsoft runtime, XML, what's that other one?
But they must if they're going
Xdirect
to.
and stuff. A lot of the old ones do, right? But like, basically, you need to be on the internet when you install. Same with Steam games. Like, you can't install a Steam game offline, and it will ping the
But
system.
GOG,
I know.
guess you
It's still you just get an
you
application
can
for
play
install,
it
though.
offline.
Yes, but you can't.
Yeah,
you have
you
to
can
be
play it
online to
offline. You
install
just
it.
can't install it. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right, so it'll ping the system and you get the Unity runtime there. And that's how they'll know
Yeah.
that it was installed, because Unity installed it for you.
Mhm.
You can install most modern games offline, sadly enough. Another reason why they don't have discs anymore. Like, there's no point in discs. Because, like, even if the disc contains most of the information, due to the way these companies work, the disc would still be, like, triggering interactions with the internet and be like, okay, because we need to make sure that your serial is actually your serial. That's why piracy worked with old serials for a long time, because all possible serials technically kind of like existed on the disc, and it was, you just type it in and be like, okay, this is an actual serial. You own the license to the game. Which that was a stupid way of doing things, but I guess before internet connectivity worked, that was the only way you could do it. But like, you have to check the serial. You have to check all the runtimes, like Xdirect and all that stuff with the internet. You can't really install a game without the internet now. It's just not a thing, and that's why discs aren't done.
Now, okay, here's the other thing. It seems like they're kind of going back to an honor system.
Okay.
So it does not appear that they are going to be automatically counting like downloads.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. So basically, they're saying you have to submit to Unity what they're calling the number of initial engagements, which they even give you like two different options. You can either do it by number of units sold minus refunds, or first time user downloads, which would be more appropriate for like a free to play game.
Yeah, and I guess they're doing that because of re-downloads and stuff, because they would still have all this information regardless, but they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a first or second time download.
Right. So basically they're leaving it up to the developers. So they're not counting, or at least they're not counting for the purposes of collecting fees, whether it would just be offline or online or whatever.
Yeah, it would just be a metric that would be in its system anyway. Like they're saying, hey, we're not going to keep track of it for you, even though we have that number, because our number wouldn't represent your number. We're going to have an honor system of you telling us what your number is. And as long as it doesn't come back too ridiculous, we're going to trust you on it. Like if our system shows that there have been like 4 million downloads of Unity runtime, but you try to tell me there's only been 1 million purchases of your game, that's going to look a little sketchy. But if it's like
unless you can
3 million, then it might be a
demos.
little more explainable, or even up to half with free demos and stuff, you know?
Yeah, or you can, I mean, and this also eliminates the worry about, paying for people downloading demos.
And even better, the most important part is it helps with the worry about piracy, because they will still get the ping for all the pirated versions.
Yeah.
That won't track with your sales numbers. And so if they're seeing 4 million and you give them a pretty reasonable sale, because piracy is never eclipse the numbers of the actual game. They're seeing 4 million. You're like, hey, between demos and between sales, we're expecting about 3.7 million. And they're like, okay, that we could probably explain the rest with piracy and re-downloads. Like, I think the honor system will work.
Yeah. And again, they're basically allowing you to choose the lesser of this 2.5% of revenue or a fee per, download or whatever, or per purchase, per initial engagement, as they call it. So, yeah, it's now I kind of feel sorry for them, because it appears they've really tried to fix it, but a lot of people are going to still be upset. So
yeah, but I mean,
guess we'll see.
Especially I think we were pretty reasonable when we were covering it the first time, but sadly there were a lot of nobody watches our show.
Yeah.
Not against any of you people who do actually watch your show. You're not a nobody, but like, look at our viewer count. There were a lot of really, really big names that were going hard on this and getting a lot of things factually wrong. Right.
And when we first reported on it, we were reporting it including the update where, what did they made where they've actually said we're not going to charge for free demos. We're not going to charge multiple times for multiple downloads from the same user. Like, they released that pretty quickly, and we reported on it. I didn't see anybody else talking about it.
I know.
Like, when they talked about this. And so I was like,
I even made sure, it took me a bit because it was behind on things, but I made sure to clip that and put it up as its own video if people want to go back and watch it.
Yeah. Well, I think you should clip this too.
I probably should.
I will officially say, I think people should give them a second chance. I don't actually even like Unity, but this is a good thing that they fixed it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's sad when people who are normally hating on Unity are actually kind of endorsing them to other people over like all these people who used to love Unity are like, oh man, screw these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like Unity as a product. I think Unreal's better. I think there's lots of engines that are better to use.
Yeah,
but I will say they appear to be trying to do right.
I'll give Unity one thing. Of all of the major engines out there, they have the best web player.
Okay.
Yeah. It's way better than the Unreal web player.
Yeah. And I have a friend, she goes by Yulo Tomorrow on Twitter, who has done a ton, like a dozen maybe, or maybe half a dozen Unity games, like mini little games. That she's a sort of a beginner game developer. and she does them all with the Unity web player. They all work great.
Yeah,
and they're really
I know
cute,
a lot of
so.
Newgrounds games creators that use Unity as well. It's like
Yeah.
the web player is actually fine. It loads really fast
Yeah.
too.
Doesn't require Flash or anything crazy like that. So,
Yeah, I could actually recommend
Yeah.
it on that.
if you're doing little web games like that, sure, Unity's probably pretty great.
And you actually don't
All
have to
the
install
faces
anything either, right?
Yeah.
I think it does run better if you have a version of Unity Web Player on your computer, but all like major browsers have Unity Web Player like built into it now.
Apparently, yeah. Because I never had to download
Yeah.
anything for it. It just pops right up.
Yeah, or I think what happens is I don't know if it comes native, but like because all these browsers work with everyone, it kind of like downloads the first time you need it in the background. It's like one of those hidden extensions you don't have to see. The same thing happens with Unreal. Like you're not even prompted to download the Unreal web player the first time that you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to look more into Phaser though when it comes to web
Yeah.
game developer, because
And
I'm pretty sure that
Godot
doesn't
is
even
getting better at
require
it too.
Yeah, I don't think Phaser even requires a plugin. I think it's all like JavaScript based.
But I think so. Yeah. Well, that's like the thing with Godot. Why Godot's getting better is like you don't actually need a plugin. The more recent version can't do this yet. They're still working on it, so you have to use 3, not 4. But Godot is built to export straight to HTML, so you can just use JavaScript for it, right? But again, that's only 3. 4 has not been updated to export to HTML yet, so you know.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, 4 is also
Okay.
really new. I think it wasn't a priority for them, so it's something that they're adding in afterwards. Well, and I guess that's kind of our time. I could at least speed through some of the headlines of the other things we were going to talk about, in case people are interested. One of it is that the Microsoft Activision deal is looking basically certain because UK finally gives its preliminary approval, and that was the last hurdle they needed to do. Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy is coming, which I'm excited for, the remaster. We were wondering if that was ever going to happen after the original Ace Attorney trilogy, and it looks like it is. You'll be able to pick that up on Switch and basically everywhere. It's going to be on like PS4 even. What was the other ones? No, that's not interesting. There was another one that was like, Onimusha is the Capcom series is getting an animated adaptation on Netflix. So that's gonna maybe hit and miss. It depends who the production team is, but it could be fun. Stardew Valley creator shares mysterious new screenshots that has spooked fans theorizing what the update for 1.6 is going to be.
I looked at those. It's like okay, nothing.
I know,
Just
I
like
know,
last
but
time.
people
It's a
are getting
screenshot
way
that-
more excited than they should.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a parrot on the island. I'm like, okay, that doesn't tell me anything.
It's official. Looking at the specs, that Metal Gear Solid 2 will actually run worse on the Switch than it did on the PS2, which obviously can't be a Switch problem. That has to be a Konami problem over there, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's weird.
And after over 20 years of its deletion, I might even go play this after the show, I'm not sure. A lost Pokemon game that was web player only has been made fully playable again, which was a very Doom-like game called Pokemon Adventure 2000, where it kind of had that like 3D movement in 2D space, so like everything's flat and stuff, you're moving around. And you use you're just like saving Pokemon that are trapped from these like shadowy Pokeballs, and you end up like using the Pokemon to solve environmental challenges, like how they had HMs and stuff. It was like a 10-minute game with multiple difficulty options that existed in promotion for Pokemon the Movie 2000. I actually vividly remember playing this game on my computer as a kid when it was new. And I'm kind of excited to play it again because it probably seems way better in my memory than it actually is, and I kind of almost want it to be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, yeah, good, because I actually have to go pretty soon. So
Okay.
I was going to say,
Yeah, that's what
can we wrap it up? Sorry.
Yeah. But thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please share it out with others. Get more people watching us so we can all have a good time together. And if you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Really helps us out. And we will see you guys in the next episode, or I don't know, whenever I fucking decide to stream again.
Yeah. See you next time.